Friends and companions, hello, hello, hello. Hades the Hedgehog, welcome in. Has Hades the Hedgehog been in here before? Raiding in with Matty. Hello, welcome in, friends. So very glad that you could join us for another beautiful night in the tavern. I apologize for being so late. The Hades Underworld 666. Jessica, hello, welcome in. Bear, Bobby, hello, welcome, friends. Milu, good to see you. Oh, doing absolutely spectacular. We've been having magic box problems. No, well, not specifically magic box problems, but Windows magic box problems for the last couple of days, and you are definitely a regular, Matty. Hatham Sparta on Facebook. I recognize the name. I do not recognize the name Sparta. Hades Underworld. Where is your username? Hades Underworld 666. Hades the Hedgehog is hilarious. Yeah, well, Windows decided to update and then nothing wanted to work. And I spent all of Tuesday fixing it, and then we were good for Wednesday. And then Windows forced an update while I was asleep. And then everything was ruined again on Thursday, so. Oh, it was your okay. Alright. That makes more sense. I like Hades the Hedgehog. I think that's very funny. I'll be out for the week starting Sunday. Whereabouts you going, Bobby? Aaron, hello, hello. I do recognize the last name Sparta because it's very unique. So I do recognize you from comments on Facebook. You'd have to remind me of a conversation we'd had for me to have a more specific memory, because we were just talking about this the other day. The lady and I have gotten over 5,000. It's now 5,500 comments in the last 90 days just on Facebook. Oh yeah. Struggle for the stories, yeah, always. Absolutely always, Jesse. Oh, I forgot, we need to give Matty a toot on the raid horn. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Our last conversation was on a bit about Celtic mythology. That doesn't wildly narrow it down. Toot for the Goblin King, yes indeed. Sinomi, hello, welcome in, friends, grab a seat. Tonight is going to be a very brief story time. Destiny, hello, love, welcome in. Just got the littlest to bed and was still sitting about 3 feet from him. No, it does have to be brief tonight. I have so much that I have to do. We're starting a new calendar next week. Mostly a video on Celtic monsters. Okay. The last Celtic monster that we did was the Kelpie. The one before that would have been the Nuclevi. And hi, Sonobi, it's good to see you. Welcome in. Rockhound, hello, welcome in. Good to see you. And then before that, let's see, I think we did Stingy Jack this year. I can't remember. We do so many stories, it's hard for me to remember all the ones that we've done. Mary Beth, hello, welcome in. It was before Jack, okay. Let's see, we have the Avatar. We have the Derog Do. We have a couple of different fairy videos. Holy smokes, use the stories thing. Hope everything is going great for you. It's going well, Rockhound. It's going well. We're working on it. lots and lots of working. All good things though. All very enjoyable. So that means it's been a while. It's been a while since you've been in for a story time then, Hades. The last two that you just said. Okay, so fairies and Avatar. Yeah, half medical issues, dealing with Cerberus. Well, good reasons to be. I'll be lurking and walking the doggo. All right, Milu, be safe. Enjoy your walk. I actually need to go take a walk. I've been inside all day and I need to get some fresh air. No, Avertoch. Not apricot. I don't know if are apricots native to Ireland? I guess the person who I should ask is me. I don't remember.
You might not have cared.
Yeah, no, not something again, it's been over 20 years since I was there, so. To Google, I go, yeah, I don't know if I ever saw an apricot tree. Like, my grandfather had an apple tree in his backyard. Lots of apple trees in Ireland. Every now and again, Tsunami. I miss the beauty of it, but the island is also much different now than it was when I left. When I left home, lots of apple trees. There's lots of apple trees in Ireland. Apricots originated in China 4,000 years ago and have since spread to Persia, the Mediterranean, and other parts of the world. Thanks, Google. Thanks, Google. So talk. Hello, hello. I do miss the beauty of home. I miss the beauty of the island. But again, most of what I loved about Ireland is not really there anymore. A lot of the wild places in Ireland have all either been industrialized or torn down or destroyed one way or another. There are still some very beautiful places, but it's not as wild as it was when I was a boy. Same, I miss my home, but to me, I will always have home in me forever. Yeah, like my memories of home are probably better than home actually is now anymore. It's rapidly. I'll stick to apples, pears, grapes, and berries. Yeah, like my grandfather had 2 apple trees in his backyard, but my grandfather had like a fairly large garden in his backyard too. So did my uncle Roland, and I remember that they had berries, and that they grew a lot of different vegetables. And my uncle Danny had, and stereotype to be sure, had a potato plot in his backyard. Uh, but yeah, I don't ever remember seeing an apricot tree for as long as I was a child. Kids actually planted a seed from an apple today to see if it would grow. We'll see. You never know, right? That's normally the case around the world, even Greece. Yeah. The world has. We have lost our love for our world and our communities, and they are rapidly falling apart. That's to be sure. But I do still love Ireland. I do. I'm very attached to my new home, as I am an American now. But I will always have love for my home in Ireland, and I'll always miss it because it was beautiful, and I had sort of I won't say idyllic because my grandfather was very strict. I had a very stark and strict upbringing, and Are we packing or reading? Well, clearly I'm not packing. But we are going to read here in just a minute. Ireland is a gorgeous land. It is. It is. It's not nearly as beautiful as it used to be. Again, a lot of the areas have been sort of destroyed in some way or another. I'm hoping to visit Ireland next year finally. I had planned it for 2020. They wanted everything short, yeah. I do strongly recommend to go. If you can, if you want to visit Ireland, I recommend you go soon. Like sometime in the next year or two. Because the wild parts of Ireland are rapidly disappearing. Oh, yakking. Well, we're always yakking, sort of. That's a silly question. We're always yakking. Waffling is a part of the culture at this point. Erin, I'm glad you made it home all right. But yeah, if you ever wanted to visit Ireland, I strongly recommend you go soon. Go in the next year or two. Because it's not going to be wild much longer. There are a lot of things happening that are going to end up taking a lot of the wild beauty away from Ireland. So if you want to go soon, if you can. Otherwise, thankfully we have a wonderful technology called photographs and moving pictures that will forever immortalize how beautiful Ireland once was. Alright, my friends. We're going to do a quick chapter of Harry Potter, Book 7, The Deathly Hallows. We're going to do a quick 3 minutes for our friends over on Twitch, so that they don't get... Well, both Matty and Erin are on 10 stream streaks. Good job. We're going to run a quick 3 minutes so you guys don't get booted off in the middle, and then we'll have an hour. We should be able to complete the whole chapter in that time, so we won't have to run out again. So let's start that, and then 3 minutes and story starts, everyone. Jessica, when you do go, make sure you visit the countryside. Make sure you go to Cork. Make sure you go to Limerick and Kerry. You want to go down to the far south side down there. And you can go anywhere but Dublin. Don't bother going to Dublin. Maybe you might, depending on where you're coming into, you might have to fly into Dublin, but yeah, well, because I grew up in Wicklow. I grew up in the Wicklow Valley, and I kind of moved about a lot. So I spent a little bit of time in Derry, a little bit of time in Down, a little bit of time in Kerry, a little bit of time in Limerick. Because I have family all over. My grandfather, his family is now it's about 350 people strong, but when I was a boy it was around 200 people, and most of them lived in different places throughout the Isle. So I was a bit of an orphan, so I bounced around between folk in my family when I was young. And there are a lot of really beautiful places in the countryside. That are so much nicer than the sort of touristy areas. And if you really want to get like a proper fry up and things like that, you got to go to like locally owned cafes and stuff. You don't want to go to get food in the tourist areas, because it's not as good as if you go out into the country and go to places that have been like family owned for a very long time. And again, there aren't many of these places left. They're all sort of slowly disappearing. Yeah, the Cliffs of Moher is you've got to go. It's touristy. There's a lot of touristy stuff there, obviously, but the Cliffs of Moher are beautiful. It's well worth being in. The only reason I go to Dublin's is St. James Gate. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean everybody goes to Blarney Castle, everybody goes to the Cliffs of Moher, and they're worth going to see. Like they are beautiful staples of Ireland. So it is worth going to see. But if you really want to get the experience of the beauty of the Irish countryside, you got to go to Down. You got to go to Galway. You got to go to Limerick. You got to go. You got to go out to. There's not a lot in County Wicklow because again, like it's sort of the countryside. But there are a few really beautiful places out there, and the countryside in County Wicklow is really beautiful. But there's just not as much. The bus is going to be easier. Driving in Ireland is hard. Driving in Ireland is a chore. So the bus would probably be your best bet for ease. But if you want to be able to experience more things and not be on somebody else's timeline, I would say get yourself a rental car and find a guide, find somebody who lives there, to sort of take you around. Because there are people who you can hire to take you around. I don't know if you're planning on spending that kind of money, but it is worthwhile to get a local to show you around. If you can find one, like if you have a friend in Ireland, then it's worthwhile to get them to take you and show you around. But if you don't, then just a tour bus is going to be easiest. It's going to be the best way to get around. But if you want to be able to experience more of things on your own timeline, then yeah, driving around is the best. Yes, I need a chauffeur for Ireland. Yeah. And when you get out into the Irish countryside, the Irish folk are generally fall into one of two categories. It's the same pretty much anywhere you go. I mean, if you go to like France, if you go like way out in the countryside, the French people in the countryside are very kind, but most like Parisians are snooty and they turn their nose up. A lot of places in Ireland, people don't really like tourists, but if you go out in the countryside and like you're respectful and you genuinely ask questions and you want to learn, and you don't ask Englishy questions. I didn't care. I've been to Paris twice with my grandfather, and neither time did I care for it. So there are a lot of beautiful things in France, in Paris, but I don't know. I think France gets overblown by a lot of people. You like if you had to like if you're going to somewhere in Europe and you have a choice between somewhere like Spain or France, I would say go to Spain, because Spain has so many more things that are beautiful, and like the countryside in Spain. Spaniards can be a little bit haughty, just like the French can, but you're more likely to encounter a friendly Spaniard than you are to encounter a friendly Parisian. You haven't missed much, Tonks. We're talking about traveling. I was in southeast France and it was going. Yeah, France is there are a lot of very pretty things in France, but the people are hard to get around. Yeah, the French countryside is gorgeous. Like you see a lot of the areas that were really war torn, 80 years ago, and they're absolutely beautiful. Hey, Irish person, where can I spend money to enjoy your culture? If you ask any Irish person, where can I spend money to enjoy your culture, they're just going to take you places to spend money on them, so don't ask that question. They're going to take you to the nearest pub, they're going to be like, yeah, just buy us some rounds. Don't be too cavalier with your money in Ireland. The Irish locals will take you for one. They absolutely will. But yeah, Spain is very beautiful. Italy used to be very beautiful. Italy has lost a lot of its grandeur. Still worth going to see. Like if you ever want to go see like the Greek and Roman architecture, like that stuff's worth going to see. But the actual like tourist towns have gone to hell. I did it in the Navy. It's tradition. Yeah, it is. If you're in the pub and you're a stranger, it's tradition to buy a round. And then everybody else has to buy a round for you too, so that's alright. My back feels great today, I got a massage, it helps. Good, I'm glad you're feeling better. Kayla, I didn't see you drop in, you got yourself a new recliner, excellent. I hope that is comfortable. Yeah, if you go out into the countryside, you'll still find some haughty French people, but it's generally Parisians who just don't like anybody. They don't even like themselves. They don't even like each other. Parisians are very haughty. They've never gotten over that one time that they were the height of culture. We'll take you to the pub if you're paying. Yeah, that's exactly correct, Matty. if you mention paying for food, or you mention paying for liquor, every Irishman around you is going to be your friend, but they're not going to let you leave until you've done it. They're not going to let you leave. You are now the dedicated buyer of drinks. Yeah, don't Paris and Denmark. Paris and Denmark have some of the Paris, Denmark, and Switzerland have some of the best pastries you'll get in the world. And it's just like culturally, there's an emphasis on baking. So there are a lot of really good bakeries in France and in Denmark and in Switzerland. They just really are. I saw a TikTok of a woman explaining how to pick up an Irishman in a bar in Ireland, and it was literally want to go home while chugging it. Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. And it's acceptable to eat a pastry a day over there, so I was so down. What's a good mixed drink in Ireland? Oxygen and stout. If you go into any like local pubs and you order mixed drinks, it's a hit or miss. But anything with really, no joking aside, anything that's got put in whiskey or and a mixer with it would generally be fine. Don't order Irish car bombs in a pub. Believe it or not, they don't take kindly to it. There are some like touristy pubs where you can do it, but don't in general do that. It's just a Scotsman and an Irishman walk into a pub. The Scotsman shouts, "A round for the house on me." The newspaper headline the following day was Irish ventriloquist found beaten to death behind pub. That's funny, Bear. That's funny. Yeah. I had a buddy who went to Ireland, and this was probably 10 years ago now, and he was buying drinks. Like he's a wealthy kid. Like his dad was a lawyer. He's a lawyer, and he went to Ireland, and he was out in I want to say he was out in Derry. He might have been in Donegal. I don't remember. It was one of the counties with a D. This was years ago, and he was buying drinks left and right, and everybody was loving him. And he yelled very loudly in the midst of the pub that he was going to buy Irish car bombs for everybody, and he immediately became no one's friend. Immediate. He went from hero to zero just like that. Can I ride a donkey in Ireland? My Irish blood is screaming at me, and I'm not sure if it wants a pint or an Englishman's head. I suppose you can ride a donkey in Ireland, Matty. Just entirely up to you. Jesse Vincent, hello, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. Grab a seat, settle in. We're about to start story time. Speaking of which, I'm going to start this because I do actually have to finish here quickly. Let's see, we're on 148. We'll be able to get through this. Alright, friends, we are in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and we are on chapter 12. And in chapter 12, we have just seen Harry more or less figure out that he's got some things going on. No, the schedule hasn't changed, Marybeth. I'm sorry, I didn't see your question. Schedule hasn't changed. We had technical issues with the Magic Box yesterday. We also had technical issues on Thursday. So everything just shifted one day because I was fixing the problems. But next week we'll be back to the regular scheduled time. So you don't need to change your calendar. We're normal time next week. I had all kinds of magic box issues this week, so we are going to be. I said sorry for the goblins. Yeah, Matty letting his children run about in the tavern, knocking stuff over. All right, friends, here we go. Chapter 12 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Magic is might. As August wore on, the square of unkempt grass in the middle of Grimmauld Place shriveled in the sun until it was brittle and brown. The inhabitants of Number 12 were never seen by anybody in the surrounding houses, nor was Number 12 itself. The muggles who had lived in Grimmauld Place had long since accepted the amusing mistake in the numbering that had caused Number 11 to sit beside Number 13. And yet, the square was now attracting a trickle of visitors who seemed to find the anomaly most intriguing. Barely a day passed without one or two people arriving in Grimmauld Place with no other purpose, or so it seemed, than to lean against the railing facing Number 11 and 13, watching the join between the two houses. The lurkers were never the same 2 days running, although they all seemed to share a dislike for normal clothing. Most of the Londoners who passed them were used to eccentric dresses and took little notice, though occasionally one of them might glance back, wondering why anyone would wear such long cloaks in this heat. The watchers seemed to be gleaning little satisfaction from their vigil. Occasionally, one of them started forward excitedly, as if they had seen something interesting at last, only to fall back looking disappointed. On the first day of September, there was more lurking in the square than ever before. Half a dozen men in long cloaks stood silent and watchful, gazing as ever at houses 11 and 13. But the thing for which they were waiting still appeared elusive. As evening drew in, bringing with it an unexpected gust of chilly rain, for the first time in weeks, there occurred one of those inexplicable moments when they appeared to have seen something interesting. The man with the distant face pointed his closest companion, a podgy, pallid man, started forward, but a moment later they had relaxed into their previous state of inactivity, looking frustrated and disappointed. Meanwhile, inside Number 12, Harry had just entered the hall. He had nearly lost his balance as he apparated onto the top step just outside the front door, and thought that the Death Eaters might have caught a glimpse of him his momentarily exposed elbow. Shutting the front door carefully behind him, he pulled off the invisibility cloak, draping it over his arm, and hurried along the gloomy hallway toward the door that led to the basement, a stolen copy of the Daily Prophet clutched in his hand. The usual low whisper of Snape greeted him, and the chill wind swept him, and his tongue rolled up for a moment. "I didn't kill you," he said, once it had unrolled, then held his breath as the dusty Jinx figure exploded. He waited until he was halfway down the stairs to the kitchen, out of earshot of Mrs. Black, and cleared of the dust cloud before calling, "I've got news, and you won't like it." The kitchen was almost unrecognizable. Every surface now shone, copper pots and pans had been burnished to a rosy glow. The wooden tabletop gleamed, the goblets and plates had already been laid for dinner, glinting light from the merrily blazing fire on which a cauldron was simmering. Nothing in the room, however, was more dramatically different than the house elf who was now hurrying toward Harry, dressed in a snowy white towel, his hair clean and his fluffy cotton wool, Regulus's locket bouncing on his thin chest.
"Shoes off, please, Master Harry. And hands washed before dinner,"
cried Creature, seizing the invisibility cloak and slouching off to hang it on a hook on the wall, beside a number of old-fashioned robes that had been freshly laundered. "What's happened?" said Ron apprehensively. He and Hermione had been poring over a sheaf of scribbled notes and hand-drawn maps that littered the end of the long kitchen table. But now they watched Harry as he strode towards them and threw down the newspaper on top of their scattered parchments. A large picture of a familiar hook-nosed, black-haired man stared up at them all beneath the headline that read, "Severus Snape confirmed as Hogwarts headmaster." "No," said Ron and Hermione loudly. Hermione was quickest, and she snatched up the newspaper and began to read the accompanying story out loud. Severus Snape, long-standing potions master at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, was today appointed headmaster in the most important of several staff changes at the ancient school, following the resignation of previous Muggle studies teacher Alecto Caro. Will take over the post while her brother Amicus fills the position of Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. I welcome the opportunity to uphold our finest wizarding traditions and values, like committing murder and cutting off people's ears, I suppose. Snape headmaster. Snape in Dumbledore's study. Merlin's pants," she shrieked, making both Harry and Ron jump. She leapt up from the table and hurtled from the room, shouting as she went, "I'll be back in a minute." "Merlin's pants," repeated Ron, looking amused. "She must be upset." He pulled the newspaper toward him and perused the article about Snape. "Teachers won't stand for this. McGonagall and Flitwick and Sprout all know the truth. They know how Dumbledore died. They won't accept Snape as headmaster. And who are these Caros?" "Death Eaters," said Harry. "There are pictures of them inside. They're at the top of the tower when Snape killed Dumbledore, so it's all friends together. And," Harry went on bitterly, drawing up a chair, "I can't see the other teachers have got any choice but to stay. If the Ministry and Voldemort are behind Snape, it would be a choice between staying and teaching or a nice few years in Azkaban. And that's if they're lucky. I reckon they'll stay to try and protect the students." Creature came bustling to the table with a large tureen in his hands and ladled out soup into pristine bowls, whistling between his teeth as he did so. "Thanks, Creature," said Harry, flipping over the prophet so as not to have to look at Snape's face. "Well, at least we know exactly where Snape is now." He began to spoon soup into his mouth. The quality of Creature's cooking had improved dramatically ever since he'd been given Regulus's lock. Today's French onion was as good as Harry had ever tasted. "There's still loads of Death Eaters watching over the house." "There's still loads of Death Eaters watching over the house," he told Ron as he ate. "More than usual. It's like they're hoping we'll march out carrying our school trunks and head off to the Hogwarts Express." Ron glanced at his watch. "I've been thinking about that all day. It's nearly 6 hours ago. It left nearly 6 hours ago. Weird not being on it, isn't it?" In his mind's eye, Harry seemed to see the Scarlet steam engine as he and Ron had once followed it by air, shimmering between fields and hills to rippling scarlet caterpillar. He was sure that Jenny, Neville, and Luna were sitting together at this moment, perhaps wondering where he, Ron, and Hermione were, or debating how best to undermine Snape's new regime. "They nearly saw me coming back just now," Harry said. "I landed badly on the top step, and the cloak slipped. I do that every time. Oh, here she is," Ron added, craning around his seat to watch Hermione re-entering the kitchen. "And what in the name of Merlin's most baggy wire fronts was that about?" "I remembered this," Hermione panted. She was carrying a large framed picture, which was now lowered to the floor before seizing her small, beaded bag from the kitchen sideboard. Opening it, she proceeded to force the painting inside, and despite the fact it had been patently too large. Susan, thank you for the heart. Me, I appreciate that. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. Thank you kindly. Tyson, hello, welcome in. I'm just stopping in to say hi and that I'm on my way to a Magic the Gathering game night at a friend's house. Well, have a fun time. Enjoy yourself. Really stick it to the blue players for all of us, Tyson. Unless you are a blue player, in which case don't tell me. I want to keep respecting you. Where was I? Had vanished, like so much else into the bag's capacious depths.
Phineas Nigelus,
Hermione explained as she threw the bag onto the kitchen table, with the usual sonorous clanking crash. Sorry, said Ron, but Harry understood. The painted image of Phineas Nigelus, Black, was able to flit between his portrait in Grimmauld Place and the one that hung in the headmaster's office in Hogwarts. The circular top room where Snape was no doubt sitting right now, in triumphant possession of Dumbledore's collection of delicate silver magical instruments, the stone pensive, the sorting hat, and, unless it had been moved elsewhere, the sword of Gryffindor.
Snape could send Phineas Nigelus to look inside the house for him,
Hermione explained to Ron as she resumed her seat.
but let him try it now. All Nigelus will be able to see is the inside of my handbag.
Good thinking, said Ron, looking impressed.
Thank you,
Said Hermione, pulling her soup towards her.
So, Harry, what else happened today?
Nothing, said Harry. Watched the ministry insurance for 7 hours. No sign of him. Saw your dad, though, Ron. He looks fine. Ron nodded his appreciation of this news. They had agreed that it was far too dangerous to try and communicate with Mr. Weasley while he walked in and out of the ministry, because he was always surrounded by other ministry workers. It was, however, reassuring to catch these glimpses of him, even if he did look very strained and anxious. Dad always told us most ministry people use the flu network to get to work, said Ron. That's why we haven't seen Umbridge. She never walked. She thinks she's too important.
And what about that funny old witch, that little wizard in the navy robes?
Asked Hermione. Yeah, the bloke from Magical Maintenance, said Ron.
How do you know he works in magical maintenance?
Hermione asked, her soup spoon suspended in midair. Dad said everyone from Magical Maintenance wears navy blue robes.
But you never told us that.
Hermione dropped her spoon and pulled toward her a sheaf of notes and maps that she and Ron had been examining when Harry had entered the kitchen.
There's nothing in here about navy blue robes. Nothing.
He said, flipping feverishly through the pages. Well, does it really matter?
Ron, it all matters. If we're going to get into the ministry and not give ourselves away when they're bound to be looking out for intruders, every little detail matters. We've been over and over this. I mean, what's the point of all these reconnaissance trips if you aren't even bothering to tell us?
Blimey, Hermione, I forgot one little thing.
You do realise, don't you, that there's probably no more dangerous place in the whole world for us right now than the ministry?
I think we should do it tomorrow, said Harry. Hermione stopped dead, her jaw hanging. Ron joked a little over his soup.
Tomorrow?
Repeated Hermione.
You aren't serious, Harry.
I am, said Harry. I don't think we're going to be much better prepared than we are now, even if we skulk about the ministry insurance for another month. The longer we put it off, the farther away that locket could be. There's already a good chance Umbridge has chucked it away. The thing doesn't open. Unless, said Ron, she's found a way of opening it and now she's possessed. Wouldn't make a huge difference to her. She's so evil in the first place. Harry shrugged. Hermione was biting her lip, deep in thought.
We know everything important.
Harry went on, addressing Hermione.
We know they've stopped apparition in and out of the Ministry. We know only the most senior Ministry members are allowed to connect their homes to the Flu Network now, because Ron heard those two unspeakables complaining about it. And we know roughly where Umbridge's office is because of what you heard the bearded bloke saying to his mate. I'll be up on level 1. Dolores wants to see me.
Hermione recited immediately.
Exactly,
Said Harry.
and we know you get in using those funny coins or tokens or whatever they are. Because I saw that witch borrowing one from a friend. But we haven't got any. If the plan works, we will have.
Harry continued calmly.
I don't know, Harry. I don't know. There are an awful lot of things that could go wrong. So much relies on chance. That'll be true even if we spend another 3 months preparing,
Said Harry.
It's time to act.
Frost, hello, hello. Yeah, we were a bit later than I would have liked to have been, but it is what it is. He could tell from Ron and Hermione's faces that they were scared. He was not particularly confident himself, and yet he was sure the time had come to put their plan into operation. They had spent the previous 4 weeks taking it in turns to don the invisibility cloak and spy on the official entrance to the Ministry, which Ron, thanks to Mr. Weasley, had known since childhood. They had tailed Ministry workers on their way in, eavesdropped on their conversations, and learned by careful observation which of them was to be relied upon to appear alone at the same time every day. Occasionally, there had been a chance to sneak a daily profit out of somebody's briefcase. Slowly, they had built up sketchy maps and notes now stacked in front of Hermione.
All right,
Said Ron slowly.
let's say we go for it tomorrow. I think it should just be me and Harry. Oh, don't start that again,
Sighed Hermione.
I thought we'd settled this. It's one thing hanging around the entrances under a cloak, but this is different, Hermione.
Ron jabbed his finger at a copy of the Daily Prophet, dated 10 days previously.
You're on a list of Muggleborns who didn't present themselves for interrogation. And that you're supposed to be dying of Spatagoy at the Burrow. Oh, and you're supposed to be dying of Spatagoy at the Burrow. If anyone should go...
Oh, hang on, this is Hermione.
And you're supposed to be dying of Spatagoy at the Burrow. If anyone should go, it's Harry. He's got 10,000 galleon price on his head. Fine, I'll stay here,
Said Harry.
Let me know if you ever defeat Lord Voldemort, won't you?
As Ron and Hermione laughed, pain shot through his scar. The scar on Harry's forehead, his hand jumped to it. He saw Hermione's eyes narrow, and he tried to pass it off the moment by brushing the hair out of his eyes.
Well, if all 3 of us go in, we'll have to disapparate separately,
Ron was saying.
we can't all fit under the cloak anymore.
Harry's scar was becoming more and more painful. He stood up. At once, Creature hurried forward.
Master, it's not finished his suit. Would Master prefer a savoury stew or anything else than treacle tart to which Master is so partial?
Thanks, Creature, but I'll be back in a minute. Bathroom.
Aware that Hermione was watching him suspiciously, Harry hurried to the stairs, to the hall, and then to the first landing, where he dashed into the bathroom and bolted the door again. Grunting with pain, he slumped over the black basin with the taps in the form of open-mouthed serpents and closed his eyes. He was gliding along a twilit street. The buildings on either side of him had high, timbered gables. They looked like gingerbread houses. He approached one of them and saw the whiteness of his own long-fingered hand against the door. He knocked, and he felt a mounting excitement. The door opened. A laughing woman, stood in there. Her face fell as she looked into Harry's face, humour gone and terror replacing it.
Gregorovitch,
said a high, cold voice. She shook her head and was trying to close the door. A white hand held it steady, prevented her from shutting him out.
I want Gregorovich.
Er woont hier niet meer.
She cried, shaking her head.
He no live here. He no live here. I not know him.
Abandoning the attempt to close the door, she began to back away down the dark hall, and Harry followed, gliding toward her, and his long-fingered hand had drawn his wand.
Where is he?
Das weiß ich nicht. He move. I know not. I know not.
He raised his wand, she screamed. Two young children came running into the hall and tried to shield them. She tried to shield them with her arms. There was a flash of green light.
Hurry! Hurry!
He opened his eyes. He had sunk to the floor, and Hermione was pounding the door again.
Harry, open up!
He had shouted out. He knew it. He got up and unbolted the door, and Hermione toppled inside at once, regained her balance, and then looked around suspiciously. Ron was right behind her, looking unnerved as he pointed his wand into the corners of the chilly bathroom.
What were you doing?
Asked Hermione sternly.
What do you think I was doing?
Said Harry, with a feel of bravado.
You were yelling your head off,
Said Ron.
Oh, yeah, I must have dozed off or... Harry, please don't insult our intelligence,
Said Hermione, taking deep breaths.
We know your scar hurt downstairs and you're white as a sheet.
Harry sat down on the edge of the bath.
Fine. I've just seen Voldemort murdering a woman. And now he's probably killed her whole family. And he didn't need to. It was Cedric all over again. They were just there. Harry, you aren't supposed to let this happen anymore,
Hermione cried, her voice echoing through the bathroom.
Dumbledore wanted you to use occlumency. He thought the connection was dangerous. Voldemort can use it, Harry. What good is it to watch him kill and torture? How can it help? Because it means I'll know what he's doing,
said Harry.
So you're not even going to try to shut him out? Hermione, I can't. You know I'm lousy at occlumency. I never got the hang of it. You never really tried, she said hotly. I don't get it, Harry. Do you like having this special connection or relationship or whatever?
She faltered under the look he gave her as he stood up.
Like it?
He said quietly.
Would you like it? No, I'm sorry, Harry. I didn't mean... I hate it. I hate the fact that he can get inside me. That I have to watch him when he's most dangerous. But I'm going to use it. Dumbledore. Forget Dumbledore. This is my choice, nobody else's. I want to know why he's after Gregorovich. Who? He's a foreign wand maker, said Harry. He made Crum's wand, and Crum reckons he's brilliant. But according to you, said Ron, Voldemort's got Ollivander locked up somewhere. If he's already got a wand maker, what does he need another one for? Maybe he agrees with Crum. Maybe he thinks Gregorovich is better, or else thinks Gregorovich will be able to explain what my wand did when he was chasing me. His Ollivander didn't know.
Harry glanced into the cracked, dusty mirror and saw Ron and Hermione exchanging skeptical looks behind his back.
Harry, you keep talking about what your wand did,
said Hermione.
But you made it happen. Why are you so determined not to take responsibility for your own power? Because I know it wasn't me. And so does Voldemort, Hermione. We both know what really happened.
They glared at each other. Harry knew that he had not convinced Hermione and that she was marshalling counter-arguments against both of his theory on his wand and the fact that he was permitting himself to see into Voldemort's mind. To his relief, Ron intervened. Drop it, he advised her. It's up to him. And if we're planning to go to the ministry tomorrow, don't you reckon we should go over the plan? Reluctantly, as the other two could tell, Hermione let the matter rest, though Harry was quite sure that she would attack again at the first opportunity. In the meantime, they returned to the basement kitchen, where Creature served them all stew and treacle tart. They did not get to bed until late that night, after spending hours going over and over their plan until they could recite it, word perfect to each other. Harry, who was now sleeping in Sirius's room, lay in bed, with his wand light trained on the old photograph of his father, Sirius, Lupin, and Pettigrew, and muttered the plan to himself for another 10 minutes. As he extinguished his wand, however, he was thinking not of Polyjuice Potion, puking pasties, or of navy blue robes, of the magical maintenance. He thought of Grigorovich, the Wand Man, and how long he could hope to remain hidden while Voldemort sought him so determinedly. Dawn seemed to follow midnight with indecent haste. "You look terrible," was Ron's greeting as he entered the room to wake Harry. "Oh, not for long," said Harry, yawning. They found Hermione downstairs in the kitchen. She was being served coffee and hot rolls by Creature, and wearing the slightly manic expression that Harry associated with exam review. "Robes?" she said under her breath, acknowledging their presence with a nervous nod and continuing to poke around in her beaded bag. "Polyjuice Potion, invisibility cloak, decoy detonators. You should be taking a couple just in case. Puking pasties, nosebleed nougat, extendable ears." They gulped down their breakfast and set off upstairs, Creature bowing them out and promising to have a steak and kidney pie ready for them when they returned. "I need to pop off, but enjoy the week, tavern friends. I will have sort of internet as the hubby had to buy the Wi-Fi, no streaming, a movie for a week that I ever paid for a month. My deck is green-black. Good, Tyson, good. That's respectable. Well, have fun for the weekend, Bobby. I hope you and your fella have a great weekend, and you have to give him a big sloppy kiss from all of us. That's the rule. Alright, let's continue. "Bless him," said Ron fondly. "And when you think I used to fantasize about cutting off his head and sticking it up on the wall." They made their way onto the front step with immense caution. They could see a couple of puffy-eyed Death Eaters watching the house from across the misty square. Hermione disapparated with Ron first, then came back for Harry. After the usual brief spell of darkness and near suffocation, Harry found himself in a tiny alleyway where the first phase of their plan was scheduled to take place. It was, as yet, deserted, except for a couple of large bins. The first ministry worker did not usually appear here until at least 8 o'clock. "Right then," said Hermione, checking her watch. "She ought to be here in about 5 minutes. Once I've stunned her..." "Hermione, we know," said Ron sternly. "And thought we were supposed to open the door before she got here." Hermione squealed. "I nearly forgot. Stand back." She pointed her wand at the padlock and the heavily graffitied fire door beside them, which burst open with a crash. The dark corridor behind it led, as they knew from their careful scouting trips, into an empty theatre. Hermione pulled the door back toward her to make it look as though it was still closed. "And now," she said, turning back to face the other two in the alleyway, "we put on the cloak again." "And we wait," Ron finished, throwing it over Hermione's head like a blanket over a birdcage and rolling his eyes at Harry. Little more than a minute later, there was a tiny pop and a little ministry witch with a flyaway grey-haired apparated feet from them, blinking a little in the sudden brightness. The sun had just come out from behind a cloud, and she barely had time to enjoy the unexpected warmth. However, before Hermione's silent stunning spell hit her in the chest and she toppled over. "Nicely done, Hermione," said Ron, emerging from behind the bin beside the theatre door. As Harry took off the invisibility cloak, together they carried the little witch into the dark passageway that led backstage. Hermione plucked a few hairs from the witch's head and added it into a flask of muddy polyjuice potion she had taken from the beaded bag. Ron was rummaging through the little witch's handbag. "She's Mafalda Hopker," he said, reading a small card that identified their victim as an assistant in the improper use of magic office. "Joker, hello and welcome in. Grab your seat." "You better take this, Hermione, and here are the tokens." He passed her several small golden coins, all embossed with the letters M-O-M, which he had taken from the witch's purse. Hermione drank the polyjuice potion, which was now a pleasant heliotrope colour, and within seconds stood before them the double of Mafalda Hopkirk. As she removed Mafalda's spectacles and put them on, Harry checked his watch. "We're running late. Mr. Magical Maintenance will be here any second." They hurried to close the door on the real Mafalda. Harry and Ron threw the invisibility cloak over themselves, but Hermione remained in view, waiting. Seconds later, there was another pop. A small, ferrety-looking wizard appeared before them. "Oh, hello, Mafalda."
"Hello,"
said Hermione in a quavery voice.
"How are you today?"
That's so good, actually.
said the little wizard, who looked thoroughly downcast. As Hermione and the wizard headed to the main road, Harry and Ron crept along behind them.
"I'm sorry to hear you're under the weather,"
said Hermione, talking firmly over the little wizard, as he tried to expound upon his problems. It was essentially to stop him from reaching the street.
"Here, have a sweet."
No thanks.
"I insist,"
said Hermione aggressively, shaking the bag of pasties in his face. Looking rather alarmed, the little wizard took one. The effect was instantaneous. The moment the pasty touched his tongue, the little wizard started vomiting so hard that he did not even notice as Hermione yanked a handful of his hairs from the top of his head.
"Oh dear,"
she said as he splattered the alleyway with sick.
"Perhaps you'd better take the day off."
No.
He choked and retched, trying to continue on his way despite being unable to walk straight.
Today must go.
"That's just silly,"
said Hermione alarmed.
"You can't go to work in this state. I think you ought to go to St. Mungo's and get them to sort you out."
The wizard had collapsed, heaving onto all fours, still trying to crawl towards the main street.
"You simply can't go to work like this,"
cried Hermione. At last he seemed to accept the truth of her words, using a repulsed Hermione to claw his way back into a standing position. He turned on the spot and vanished, leaving nothing behind but the bag Ron had snatched from his hand as he went, and some flying chunks of vomit.
"Ah,"
said Hermione, holding up the skirts of her robes to avoid the puddles of sick.
"Would have been much less mess just to stun him too."
"Yeah," said Ron, emerging from under the cloak holding the wizard's bag. "But I still think a whole pile of unconscious bodies would have drawn more attention. Keen on his job, though, isn't he? Chuck us the hair and the potion, then." Within 2 minutes, Ron stood before them, as small and ferrety as the sick wizard, and wearing the navy blue robes that had been folded into his bag. Weird. He wasn't wearing them today, wasn't he? Seeing how much he wanted to go, anyway. Red Catamole, according to the label in the back.
Now, wait here.
Hermione told Harry, who was still under the invisibility cloak.
And we'll be back with some hairs for you.
He had to wait 10 minutes, but it seemed much longer to Harry, skulking alone in the six-splattered alleyway beside a door concealing the stunned Mafalda. Finally, Ron and Hermione reappeared.
We don't know who he is,
Hermione said, passing Harry several curly black hairs.
but he's gone home with a dreadful nosebleed. Here, he's pretty tall. You'll need bigger robes.
She pulled out a set of old robes Creature had laundered for them. Harry retired to take the potion and change. Once the painful transformation was complete, he was more than 6 feet tall and, from what he could tell from his well-muscled arms and powerfully built, he also had a beard. Stowing the invisibility cloak and his glasses inside his new robes, he rejoined the other two. "Blimey, that's scary," said Ron, looking up at Harry, who now towered over him.
Take one of Mafalda's tokens,
Hermione told Harry.
and let's go. It's nearly 9.
They stepped into the alleyway together. 50 yards along the crowded pavement, there were spiked black railings flanking two flights of steps, one labeled gentlemen and the other ladies.
See you in a moment, then,
Said Hermione nervously as she tottered off down the steps to ladies. Harry and Ron joined a number of oddly dressed men descending into what appeared to be an ordinary underground public toilet, tiled in grimy black and white. "Belinda, hello, hello. Not much, Joker. We had troubles yesterday, so we decided we were going to read today. Gunnar, hello, hello. How are you all faring this fine evening? Captain Frostbeard, I hope you're all well and wonderful. All well and wonderful, my friend. I hope that you are doing well and enjoying your absolutely wonderful Friday afternoon. Belinda, I hope that you are also well. Welcome in. It's good to see you. Doing good, just relaxing? It's a fine thing to do on a Friday. Teresa, hello. Good to see you.
Morning, Reg.
Called another wizard in navy blue robes as he let himself into a cubicle by inserting his golden token into a slot in the door.
Flippin' pain in the bottoms, this is, huh? Forcing us all to get to work this way. Who are they expecting to turn up? Harry Potter?
The wizard roared with laughter at his own wit. Ron gave a forced chuckle. "Yeah," he said. "Stupid, isn't it?" And he and Harry let themselves into the adjoining cubicles. To Harry's left and right came the sound of flushing. He crouched down and peered through the gap at the bottom of the cubicle just in time to see a pair of booted feet climbing into the toilet next door. He looked to the left and saw Ron blinking at him.
we have to flush ourselves, eh?
He whispered. "Looks like it." Harry whispered back. His voice came out in a deep, gravelly tone. They both stood up, feeling exceptionally foolish. Harry clambered into the toilet. He knew once that he had done the right thing, though, as he appeared to be standing in water, his shoes and feet and robes remained quite dry. He reached up, pulled the chain, and the next moment he had zoomed down a short chute, emerging into a fireplace. Out of a fireplace into the Ministry of Magic. He got up clumsily. There was a lot more of his body than he was accustomed to. The great atrium seemed darker than Harry had remembered it. Previously, a golden fountain had filled the center of the hall, casting shimmering spots of light over the polished wooden floor and walls. Now, a gigantic statue of black stone dominated the scene. It was rather frightening, this vast sculpture of a witch and a wizard sitting on an ornately carved throne, looking down at the ministry workers toppling out of fireplaces below them. Engraved in foot-high letters at the base of the statue were the words, "Magic is might." Harry received a heavy blow on the back of his legs. Another wizard had just flown out of the fireplace behind him.
Out of the way, can't you? Oh,
Sorry, Runcorn. Clearly frightened, the balding wizard hurried away. Apparently, the man whom Harry was impersonating, Runcorn, was intimidating.
Psst!
Said a voice, and he looked around to see a wispy little witch and a ferrety wizard from magical maintenance gesturing to him from the other side of the statue. Harry hastened to join them.
You got in all right then?
Hermione whispered to Harry.
No, he's still stuck in the bog,
Said Ron.
Oh, very funny. It's horrible, isn't it?
She said to Harry, who was staring up at the statue.
Have you seen what they're sitting on?
Harry looked more closely and realized that what he had thought were decoratively carved thrones were actually mounds of carved humans. Hundreds and hundreds of naked bodies of men and women and children, all rather stupid, ugly faces, twisted and pressed together to support the weight of the handsomely robed wizards.
Muggles.
Whispered Hermione.
No rightful place. Come on, let's get going.
They joined the streams of witches and wizards moving along the golden gates, at the end of the hall, looking around as surreptitiously as possible. But there was no sign of the distinctive figure of Dolores Umbridge. They passed through the gates and into the smaller hall, where the queues were forming in front of the 20 golden grills housing the many lifts. They had barely joined the nearest one when a voice said, "Catamo!" They looked around and Harry's stomach turned. One of the Death Eaters that had witnessed Dumbledore's death was striding towards them. The ministry workers beside them fell silent, their eyes downcast. Harry could feel fear rippling through them. The man's scowling, slightly brutish face was somehow at odds with his magnificent sweeping robes, which were embroidered with much gold thread. Someone in the crowd around the lifts called sycophantically,
morning, Yaxley!
And Yaxley ignored them.
I requested somebody from magical maintenance to sort out my office, Catamo. It's still raining in there.
Ron looked around as though hoping somebody else would intervene, but nobody spoke. Raining in your office? That's not good, is it? Ron gave a nervous laugh, and Yaxley's eyes widened.
You think it's funny, Catamo, do you?
A pair of witches broke away from the queue for the lift and bustled off.
No,
Said Ron. No, of course not.
you realise that I'm on my way downstairs to interrogate your wife, Catamo. In fact, I'm surprised you're not down there holding her hand while she waits. Already given up her up as a bad job, have you? Probably was. Be sure to marry pureblood next time.
Hermione let out a little squeak of horror, and Yaxley looked at her. She coughed feebly and turned away. I stammered Ron.
But if my wife were accused of being a mudblood,
Said Yaxley.
not that any woman I married would ever be mistaken for such filth. And the head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement needed a job doing, I would make it my priority to do their job, Catamo. Do you understand me?
Yes, said Ron.
Then attend to it, Catamo. And if my office is not completely dry within an hour, your wife's blood status will be an even greater doubt than it is now.
The golden grill before them clattered open, and with a nod and unpleasant smile to Harry, who was evidently expected to appreciate this treatment of Catamo, Yaxley swept away toward another lift. Harry, Ron, and Hermione entered theirs, but nobody followed them. It was as if they were infectious. The grill shut with a clang, and the lift began to move upward.
What am I going to do?
Ron asked the other two at once. He looked stricken.
If I don't turn out my wife, Catamo's wife,
Well, we'll come with you. We should stick together, began Harry, but Ron shook his head feverishly. That's mental. We haven't got much time. You two find Umbridge and I'll go sort out Yaxley's office, but how do I stop it raining? Try Finite Incantatum, said Hermione at once. That should stop the rain if it's a hex or a curse. If it doesn't, something's gone wrong with the atmospheric charm, which will be more difficult to fix. So, as an interim measure, try Impervious to protect his belongings. Say it again slowly, said Ron, searching his pockets desperately for a quill. But at that moment the lift had halted. A disembodied female voice said, Level 4, Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, incorporating Beast, Being and Spirit Divisions, Goblin Liaison Office, and Pest Advisory Bureau. And the groove slid open again, admitting a couple of wizards and several pale violet paper airplanes that fluttered around the lamp in the ceiling for the lift.
Morning, Abbott,
said a bushly whisker man, smiling at Harry. He glanced over at Ron and Hermione as the lift creaked upward once more. Hermione was now whispering frantic instructions to Ron. The wizard leaned toward Harry, leering and muttered,
Dirk Creswell, from the Goblin Liaison. Nice one, Abbott. Pretty confident I'll get his job now.
He winked, and Harry smiled back, hoping that this would suffice. The lift stopped, and the grooves opened once more. Level 2, Department of Magical Law Enforcement, including improper use of Magic Office, Aura Headquarters, and Wisengamot Administration Services, said the disembodied witch's voice. Harry saw Hermione give Ron a little push, and he hurried out of the lift, followed by the other wizards, leaving Harry and Hermione alone. The moment the golden door had closed, Hermione said, very fast, Actually, Harry, I think I'd better go after him. I don't think he knows what he's doing, and if he gets caught, the whole thing. Level 1, Ministry of Magic and Support Staff. The golden grooves slid apart, and Hermione gasped. 4 people stood before them. 2 of them in deep conversation with a long-haired wizard wearing magnificent robes of black and gold, and a squat, toad-like witch wearing a velvet bow in her short hair and clutching a clipboard to her chest. And so ends Chapter 12 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, my friends. Quite the go of it. Kill the toad. I think it's funny how Umbridge is very likely more universally hated than even Voldemort is. You will find some people who at least relate to Voldemort in a way, or think that he is he's at least an interesting character. Everyone hates Umbridge. Everyone hates Umbridge. The cliffhangers in this book. By book 7, she did get really good at the chapter cliffhangers, that's to be sure. Well, my friends, it's sad to see you have to go so soon. I know. I promise next week Storytime will full length. We'll start at 4:30, and we will have a full 3 to 4 hours of storytelling, both Tuesday and Thursday. Umbridge is meant to be hated. Yeah, absolutely, Frost. She was designed to be hated. Like, she's got no redemption at all. And it's what we were talking about before. Now, she's not as well written as Hans Lando is, but it's the same thing we were talking about the other day with what makes a good villain, right? And it's that they're human. Now, she is kind of just like cackly evil, just to be evil. But part of what makes you hate her so much is that she's following the rules, technically. Now, we find out that she's not actually following the rules, which makes her not as interesting. But you find out that she's mostly following the law, and That's she's just a mundane person. She doesn't have really more power than anybody else. I'm literally at the inciting incident for the climax in Life 5 for your book, Matty. Yeah. They say better late than never, but I'm starting to feel a bit gypped by the statement now. Exactly, no redeeming qualities at all. Yeah. There's none. She's a bureaucrat. Her views on punishment are scary. Right. Well, and the that's the part that ends up being contentious, right? Is that she's technically following the rules, but she's also breaking the rules, and she's doing this sort of like justification of, oh, I'm following the spirit of the rule by interpreting it this way. Yeah, right. Like she's like, oh, I'm supposed to discipline these children until they tell me the truth, and so I'm going to use this thing that's technically not okay to get the result that I need to do what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's this sort of like roundabout amoral justification that you get a lot throughout history. It's a very human thing to do. Oh, I'm going to have this moral stance, but then I'm going to justify it when it's convenient to me. It's one of the most human things. It's why she's irritating. Because it's one of the most human things in the world to justify doing something terrible, even though you know it's terrible, but because it's convenient for you, now I'm going to justify it. If you have to break a few eggs to make an omelette, was precisely that. The results justify the means is exactly how she is. Good night, Mary Beth. Rest well, and you're most welcome. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry it had to be so short tonight, but I'm gonna be writing a book called The Warrior. I look forward to seeing what you make then, Joker. It's chilling that Harry has the scars from the lines that he had to write. Right. And I actually, one of the more brilliant things, because I'm not a fan of the way that that Rowling writes. I've made that very, very, very clear and apparent. I don't think she's a very good writer, but one of the more brilliant things that she does is the traversing of that particular theme. Like having that written into the back of his hand as a reminder, sort of in a roundabout way, makes Harry a better person. Because that reminder of injustice makes him not as likely to snap at his friends, not as likely to blame other people for his issues. So it ends up being a very good transcending theme throughout the books. Thank you. I'm looking forward to everybody reading it. There can never be too many books in the world, especially if you're gonna put in the time to make it a good book. I got your confession. Fudge, how, Umbridge, legally, in courty fingers. What are the rules to the new contest? Are you going to post them? Yeah, the rules are already up for for this month's writing contest for the Tavern Tales book. The instructions are already up. They went out the other day. I haven't made a video about it yet, but I will soon, I promise. Probably in the next couple of days. But I'm very excited about this month's topic. I think it's very interesting, and I'm excited to see what's going to be done with it. Harold has claimed me as his bestie, I think. Well, you are a fellow goblin, Matty. That is to be expected. Alright, my friends, I think that this is where I'm going to send you all off, and I promise it'll be worth it, because the lady and I have things that we're working on tonight that I hope everyone will enjoy. So, I'm going to send you all off for the night. I know. Let me see if any of our friends are over on Twitch, so that I don't have to leave you all alone. Let's see. Well, Killshot is on. Do you guys want to go and spend some time with Killshot? Yes, yeah. No, I think that'll be a good one. We'll go drop everyone off with Killshot. All right, my friends, I appreciate you all dropping in for Storytime tonight. Sorry it had to be short, and I'm sorry that we're finishing up so quickly. But I appreciate all of you for coming out. Thank you kindly, my friends. And we will be back on Tuesday, the regular time, proper, and we'll have a full 3 to 4 hours of storytelling. Jessica, good night. Joker, good night. Everyone who is still here, all of the tavern regulars and barkeeps, Bear, Milu, Teresa, Matty, Frost, Tyson, if you're still here, Belinda. Everyone, thank you so much for showing up for Storytime. It means the world. I will see you all on Tuesday for Dr. Sethnon, and the lady will see you all on Sunday for Child of the Prophecy by Juliette Marie. I look forward to seeing you all again soon, but until then, I will bid you stay bloodthirsty, my friends, and I will see you next time. Good night. Good night, Gunnar. And good night, Destiny.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say about that because I don't know what's been announced. I didn't notice the announcement went out. I don't know what's been said. I think they said something about smells.
Oh.
Jarred. I think.
Did they say anything about your face?
My face is never gonna get fixed. Ever. That's from me too. How dare you?
But you went with it, so you must.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was on point. I mean,
Yeah.
right.
Welcome in!
I just didn't think she'd be so harsh.
Guys, please go check out Black Dragon Tavern Gaming if you haven't. If you're new here, I'm Killshot Kenny. I'm a retro and horror game streamer. We're actually showing
But yeah,
7 Days Blood Moons, which I am very proud to have been a part of.
feel free,
helping build.
everybody. I don't mind. Oh shit.
In the way of playtesting.
You know what?
I'm not a dev. But anyway.
No, I think you're fine. You can keep talking.